question is, are you ready?
What do you guys want to talk about?
Let me talk to you.
Yeah.
Throwdown Nation, we are live with a rescheduled episode 159 of the Throwdown. I'm your host, Matt. It is a Sunday. We are live currently on YouTube, Twitter/X, Facebook, and Twitch. For some reason, Instagram is not wanting to connect. I don't really know why, but it's being temperamental. So tonight is a little bit different. We are throwing down with Anthony, the creator and designer of SlamStars, the tabletop wrestling game. So how you doing tonight, Anthony?
Tired, but I'm good.
I believe it. There is a little bit of a time difference. You were in Wales, correct?
South Wales, yeah. So just north of Cardiff.
Nice. So for those of you that are watching this live, if you have any questions or comments, just throw them in the chat, and we'll either handle them as we go or do a little Q&A at the end. So we'll go ahead and start with the first and the most obvious question, and that is, since you took it upon yourself to create a tabletop wrestling game, that would indicate logically that you yourself are a wrestling fan. So how long have you been a fan of professional wrestling?
Since I was about 4. So that is 36 years.
Gotcha. What is your... Same here. I became a fan around the age of 11, and I just turned 56. So about 45 years for me. So what is your earliest wrestling-related memory?
So I remember watching WrestleMania 1 and 2. Sat with my grandparents. They were on VHS. So that was a nice Sunday sort of afternoon. And that's what really got me into it.
Gotcha. So what led you to wanting to turn professional wrestling into a tabletop game?
So it's an interesting question so I used to run a gaming store and community when I lived in Lincolnshire in England. And one day I went into work and I'd watched wrestling on the weekend, and then went in like, I wonder if they do a tabletop wrestling game. So, the internet was something at the time, you could still check. So went on, had a look, and there wasn't anything. There was a couple of role play games. None of them sort of piqued my interest. And it was like, right, okay, well, if there isn't one, can I make one? I'd already dabbled at some basic games, and was like, right, okay, let's give this a go. So I did. I sat down, I spent a weekend coming up with the core mechanics, and it went from there.
Gotcha. So, how long have you yourself been into games, and what are some of your favorite games?
So, again, a very long time into games, looking at 30, 35 years. Used to do a lot of games with the family when we used to go camping in the caravan and things like that. So things like Scrabble and Monopoly, Go for Broke, Payday, things like that. Really took off then in my teens when I got into Warhammer. So I'm assuming most people know Warhammer, so I won't bore people with the details, but I got hooked into that quite easily. The idea of mass armies and that. And then it snowballed from there. Some of my favorite games, things like Catan, with is an element of strategy and resource building. Yeah, Monopoly, always enjoy a good game of Monopoly without the overthrowing of the table, ideally. Payday, again, is just a nice, easy game to play on a Sunday afternoon. And then obviously Warhammer, War Machine, action. A lot of my games these days, I prefer the miniatures because it's 1-on-1. And I do a lot of Dungeons and Dragons as well. So I run a few groups and I play a few games as well. So that
Gotcha.
is, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's funny. Back when I was in high school, I tried desperately to get into Dungeons and Dragons. And I don't know if it was just the group that I was with, because I had a group of friends that played, and it just never clicked with me, and I desperately wanted it to click, but it just didn't. And so I've always been somewhat disappointed that I just I never saw the big deal about D&D. But I have a feeling that probably with the right group of people, it's probably an incredible experience. But I just at that time in my life, I just didn't I guess have the right people to play with.
Yeah, and the difference now to what it is today than it was 25 years ago, 30 years ago, is the core of it is still the same, but the mechanics, a lot of the gameplay is very different. And as you say, that group of people that you play with makes a huge difference. I'm lucky enough to run 3 different groups, and I think there's 16 people in total across those 3 groups, and they're all fantastic, and then I play a few games with about 6 or 7 people as well. And yeah, the group matters. The people around that table, if you can't gel with people, it's a difficult game. Just because you're there, it's supposed to be fun. And it can't, sometimes some of these possibly being too rules heavy, and it takes away a lot of the fun, and there's a lot of back and forth with, well, this is how it's supposed to work. And in a game that's as fluid as D&D should be, you don't want it bogged down with sort of, this is how this should be working. Rule of cool rules, definitely.
Right. So, outside of away from wrestling and away from gaming and such, what are some of your other hobbies and interests? Or I mean, it sounds like you're a very busy guy, so you probably don't have time for a lot outside of those areas.
That's true. I am very busy. but I still have a fair amount of hobbies that I don't engage with as much as I should do. I love cycling. I used to cycle a lot. Now, not so much. I'm gutted I've missed the first 6 games of the new NFL season. I know the Eagles are 4-2 at the moment, but haven't had a chance to catch up with any of those. So you can imagine last year, or this year, beginning of the at their Super Bowl win, that was quite nice.
Yes, my wife actually is a graduate of the University of Alabama. So we have loved Jalen Hurts since his days there, and we're just delighted with the success that he's had in the NFL. He's just a good dude. So.
And his Super Bowl performance was amazing. Hats off to him. It was
for sure.
But yeah, I do a lot of writing as well. Game design. I mean, SlamStars is one of a very large catalog of games I have that currently not doing a great deal, but I'm in the process of trying to change that.
Got you. So, I know enough about gaming to know that there are a number of different, basically common gaming systems that are unique to different games. And is there a particular system that you kind of modeled SlamStars on?
There isn't.
Okay.
I set out with the intention of it being very different. And when I first started it was very card heavy. So it was inspired a little bit like Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon and things where you had your deck cards and they controlled your moves. And at the start, it was a game you could use just simply the cards for and play perfectly fine. Or you could take it as a tabletop game.
Right.
And that I enjoyed that. But over the years, I've worked on it, I've tweaked it, and the card just being a card game kind of fell away. And I went through a point where I totally overhauled the game, didn't like it at all, and kind of benched it for quite a while. And then went back to it probably about 5 years ago. And it was like, right, I'm going to go back to my original mechanics, but I need something extra. And I went back to my love for things like Catan and other resource management games. I was like, I want something that has that management aspect. So then that's where the stamina system came in. And since I've put that in, I felt the game is so much more versatile, a lot more fluid, and gives a lot of control to the player to be able to play the game the way that they want or they see their SlamStar being. So I think that was that pivotal moment that I kind of went, yeah, this is what I want it to be.
Got you. Well, I know that, especially with the larger wrestling companies like, WWE and AEW and TNA, they sort of have their performers kind of locked down as intellectual property, so to speak. So, I'm sure that you have, I guess, for lack of a better term, characters within SlamStars that are based upon certain wrestling stars of today, but obviously you can't use their names and such. Is that pretty accurate? Do you have, or is that how the game is done?
So one of the things that I really wanted was to put a lot of control into the hands of the players. And one of that was the create a SlamStar system. Gotcha. So if you wanted to have the on your roster, you could do that. you could take what you saw of him. You know, he's a powerhouse. He's strong. He's not very fast, but he's not slow. And taking those aspects of him and applying them into our rule system and going, right, this is how I see the dead man. I'm going to play him, you know. And we can apply that same system literally to anybody. So it could be your milkman, it could be your, you know, your mum, your dad, your brother, anybody you could apply this system to.
Oh, very cool.
Literally gives you infinite ability. When I first started promoting SlamStars publicly, I did, and I still have, little cardboard standees of about 14 WWE, WWF characters. So I have Seth Rollins, I have Belair, I got Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, you know, Triple H. So I took those and was kind of like, right, I know this is going to get me into trouble, but you know, you need something,
right?
Because if I try to advertise it as John, you know, nobody's going to go, oh, okay, that's, you know. So to be able to go, this is what you can do, was important, and obviously that led me on then to going, actually, I want real people involved, and then I reached out to a lot of indie stars who are in the industry, you know, working hard, weekly shows, you know, and they've taken it. A lot of these indie amazing athletes have taken it and claimed it as their own, which is fantastic. And have gone, yeah,
sure.
Let us know, tag us, we'll share. And I put a post up today on TikTok, and literally a few of them have already gone, yeah, like, share, post, and they, you know, they're behind it. They love the idea, and it's amazing to have that. And it'd be nice that also have then the other side of it as well, and be working with the big names, but it's because it's a wrestling game and it has so much creative freedom. It's there for everybody.
Exactly. And you know, you were talking about how the indies have really latched on to this idea and really, you know, really accepted it. And, you know, that has been one of the really beautiful things about doing this show. The show is focused on the indies, you know, and being a part of telling the story of people chasing a dream has just been the coolest thing in the world. And that was one of the reasons that I'm excited to have you on, because you know, I'm trying to do some different things here. I mean, I'm mostly doing conversations with wrestlers, but I've had the opportunity to have some people on who are involved in the industry, but in a more tangential way, you know, and you yourself are chasing your dream. And so, you know, having you on and being able to tell the story of SlamStars is just an honor. I mean, this is just so cool that, you know, you're pulling a Cody Rhodes here and you're betting on yourself. And that's just awesome.
To be fair, that is a monumental comparison. I mean, I loads a lot of respect for the guy, and yeah, to have that comparison, that's amazing. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. You know, it was heartfelt because, I mean, you know, belief in oneself is so important, and we all at various times can be our own worst enemy, you know, with self-doubt and with listening to the negatives and taking those to heart rather than the positives. You know, it's so easy to fall into that trap. And, you know, and I'm a firm believer that, you know, God puts us into unique situations with the idea that we are just to bloom where we're planted, you know. And it's so, yeah, you know, I love stories like this. And, you know, like I said, you know, I'm 160 episodes in on this now, and with, you know, plenty more to come. And this has just been a complete labor of love. I love this stuff. So,
and I've been on the receiving end of those sort of negative, like, you know, nobody's gonna want to play it, nobody's gonna get behind it. I mean, we have a Kickstarter running at the moment to try and raise £1,000 to get the game sort of out there, and we've had £75. You know, 3 people have backed us. And to be fair, it sounds horrible, but it's that self-doubt, not expecting it to reach its target. But I'm also not worried about it, because what I want to do with the game doesn't require that sort of funding. That would be great. And it gives people an opportunity to get behind it. But the game itself is going to be sort of print and play, is the bit that I'm excited about, because you could buy it on a Monday, go home, or you buy it from home. You know, you get an email with everything you need to download, print it out, spend a couple of hours cutting out the card pieces and bits and pieces like that, and then you've got it. You know, and the rule book the same, print and play. So you print it off, stick it into like a folder, so like this, with the pages in. And then when we update the rules, we release them. People get the email. Again, they print off the sheets, they replace the sheets in the rule book, and looking at how this then changes the game in regards to, we're not producing a load of waste, we're not producing a load of unnecessary product that might not sell. People then have the freedom that if they're a family of 4 and they want to play, they can print off 4 of the player packs. If they're a family of 8, they can print off 8 of the player packs, you know, and it's still costing them the same money, not having to go out and buy a second copy of the game. So they've got the cards for 8 players instead of 4. You know, and me, as a gamer, as somebody who puts a lot of money into big companies because of the games I enjoy, I want people to enjoy SlamStars, it be affordable, and it build a community of people who enjoy the game and support what, you know, is going on. And we have, what, 62 wrestlers from the indie circuits from all over the world currently signed on to our roster. I've got about 10 people that I still got to do profiles for, so that'll take that up past 70. We've got 5 promotions behind us that we've got promotion sheets for. And for those that might follow us on TikTok, would see that they've been taken on by people I know, by players. And we're running through the career mode at the moment, so people can see what it's like. And that's been a lot of fun. And those promotions are like, yeah, we love what you're doing. We want to be a part of this. What can we do? And the guy that runs Dog, Dangerous Adrenaline Gladiator Wrestling, got to remember that. Obviously, from the States, sent me a message saying, can I ask a question? I was like, yeah, go for it. Always happy. He was like, can you print off one of your sheets with our promotion on, and can you sign it, and can you send it over? Because I want to put it on our wall. And to me,
wow.
Yeah, that's exactly that. That to me means more than anything, because that's what it's about. It's about supporting those individuals, those companies, those promotions, because that's where it all starts. And we've had the pleasure of working and going and seeing one of our local promotions a fair bit recently, me and my partner and the boys, and it's been phenomenal because we've gone in there, we took the setup down there to show it off. On one event, I came back and literally everybody who
Very
wrestled
cool.
that night signed it. So eventually that's going to go in a frame on the wall. And it's amazing because the community and the guys that are there, as you say, are just amazing. And I never thought that I would have this amount of support. So it's blown me away.
Well, it's been my experience, being around the independent wrestling scene and community. It is the most warm, welcoming bunch of people. I mean, it has just been such a pleasure to work with these people because they are all so excited, and I'm trying to obviously do my own thing and make this as distinctively mine as possible. But to some extent, I don't know if you are familiar with the work of a guy named Chris Van Vliet. He does a lot. He's YouTube based, but he does a lot of interviews and similar kind of to what I do, but oftentimes in person with like the big names, like the WWE and AEW talents and that kind of thing. And I'm trying to sort of be a Chris Van Vliet for the indies, to sort of give them the platform to kind of show who they are as people as well as performers, and I just it has just been such a cool thing, and like I said, the whole community is just tremendous. So, and I'm glad to see that you've had the same experience because
Definitely
awesome.
Yeah, we did up and down the UK to go and see the guys that have signed up, to meet with others, and it's now starting to trickle over to the States, and that's amazing. I've always wanted to do a bit of a road trip, anyway. So, that most certainly seems like that could be an option in the near future. But it is just an amazing community, and the people are so down to earth, so real, and even the big stars, that have come from the indies, then up to the big leagues, and are now back in the indies, supporting shows and things. To have the opportunity to sit and talk to those, is amazing, because even though they've reached that stardom level, a lot of them come back down to the indies because that's where they feel that connection with the fans rather than in big stadiums. It's amazing.
Well, out of curiosity, have you gotten any feedback on the game from any big names? I'm just curious.
Not yet. I'm looking forward to the day that I do. A couple of the promotions I talked to dropped a couple of names. I won't name drop, but it's when the stars align, I suppose. But most certainly, I would be happy to talk to anybody from the wrestling industry that would love to get involved. And all it is a few questions. How do they see their persona? And, you know, and then we do the work of putting them into a character sheet, a roster form, and that's that done. It's so quick, so easy, and it has the potential of bringing a lot of fun and enjoyment to people for, you know, for such a small kind of 5 minutes of filling in a questionnaire, sort of.
Gotcha. So, you know, going back to your wrestling fandom, do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? Is there a
Or
match, a match in particular that just rings your chime?
not a particular match.
Okay.
There's so many.
Right. Of course.
But anytime the Bret Hart or the Hart Foundation were in the ring, big bonus for me. The Bulldog. So obviously when they had their matches, I was in my element. But yeah, just it's difficult. It really is difficult to pick a match. Just yeah, there's so many great moments. Like I say, I've watched from WrestleMania 1 pretty much all the way through. And I think I don't remember. The first women's WrestleMania main event a couple of years ago. That was for me, and the industry in general, just seeing a female main event was
It was it was a turning point.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about the direction that the WWE seem to be going in, is this: we need to readdress the way things have been. And now to have 3 main, big named promotions out there. So TNA, WWE, and
AEW.
It's great because there's always some top quality wrestling on the telly. But then depending on where you are, I mean, we are very blessed here in South Wales that we have a fair number of regular wrestling events. But you could, your weekends, you could be out down here watching 3 or 4 different local promotions, and that's phenomenal. You never had that sort of 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah, I mean, with the rise of the indies, we are really in a renaissance of the industry right now. I mean, it is, and there literally is a flavor of wrestling to suit anybody's tastes at this point. I mean, I'm in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And, I can think just off the top of my head, we've got at least 6 successful indie promotions within an hour's drive from where I live. So I mean, it's beautiful seeing the scene here in Georgia flourishing the way it is. And I mean, they are really the indie promotions here in Atlanta are just putting out some amazing talent. I mean, one company in particular, WWA4 here in Atlanta, is just I've had a large number of their talent on the show. And I mean, they are blessed to have AR Fox as their head trainer. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he is amazing. But yeah, just seeing seeing the business flourishing the way it is just, it just does my heart good, because having watched this stuff for 45 years, I've seen, everything is cyclical, and I've seen the ups and downs of the business, and it's just nice to see it on such an upswing right now. It's exciting.
Yeah, well, as I say, we are blessed here in South Wales to have so many promotions, and I say within an hour of where I am, we have 5. I think it's only 5, and one of them is here in my hometown. So it's
Nice.
it is absolutely amazing, and the way it brings people together. Not only at showtime, but those that go and train and use that opportunity, and obviously with a lot of mental health concerns and stuff going, these places have become like safe havens for people to go, because wrestling is so loved, and people don't realize that there's something so local to them. And when they discover that, they're like, yeah, let's go watch. And then they watch and they go, well, actually, I'd love to do this. And then they go and they train, and it's something good for their body, something good for their mind, something good for their general well-being. And it's becoming such an important part of a lot of communities. I mean, the guys that reached out to us originally down in Newport, they have a training school. They train 3 days a week. They have a weekly show now, and the guys down there are amazing. But I didn't know they were there. I knew the guys from my hometown. I knew one of the others up in the valleys, and since really putting SlamStars out there, I've come to understand how sort of populated it is with these little indie shows, and sort of what they're doing and where they are and the impact they're having. And one of the guys, they won't mind me mentioning them, Royal Imperial Wrestling, are sort of based down Swansea way. They have recently sponsored their local youth rugby team, and
Nice.
some guys went down in their personas to hand over the check and everything else to the youngsters at the rugby club. And to see that being promoted on Facebook, on social media, was like, this is something that the big leagues used to do. And it's great to see the indies doing it, because it shows a real heart in their community.
Absolutely. So, in your opinion, at this moment, who are the best male and best female wrestlers in the world? Who's the top man? Who's the top man, and who's the top woman?
Oh, that's a cruel question. Absolutely cruel. So I've got to be fair. It is difficult. My top 3, and it is probably very predictable. Seth, names, CM Punk, and no, who did I have? Roman. Let's forget Roman. Extremely long title reign that was very questionable. He seems to be a man with a lot of heart, and with everything he's gone through, he could have quite easily backed down, but fought it through. He deserves a lot of respect.
Absolutely.
And he plays his persona extremely well. The tribal chief was somebody that you love to hate or you love to love, and that makes a great character. You know,
Exactly. You know, they say love them or hate them, you'll never forget them.
that's it, exactly. Seth is an amazing athlete, you know, flamboyant and, you know, just a joy to watch. And then Punk, you know, he's been around for a long time. He's earned his stripes. He's not had the easiest of runs, but most certainly, you know, deserves the spot he's in. On the female side of things,
Yes.
he's, again, very difficult. But Bailey, again, somebody who's been on the circuit for a long time, earned his stripes, and is phenomenal to watch in the ring. Becky, you know, the man, she's earned that title a little bit. Always a joy to watch. And then, yeah, I don't think I could pick a third, because there'd be a lot of people that would kind of go there. I have a bit of a soft spot for Soraya, for Paige.
Yes.
But then you got the likes of Ahsoka, you know, Mickey James, who's been on the circuit for a long time again. It still comes out and performs phenomenally. So, yeah, that's a bit more difficult. The women's wrestling has improved so much, and given that footing now to stand on their own and compete at the levels they do, is, you know, you can't help but respect a lot of them for what they do.
Absolutely. So, knowing everything you know at this point in your life, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
I'd love to say something profound, to be fair, but I don't think I'd say anything. My experiences, my triumphs, my failures, and there's been a lot of failures, have all led me to where I am today, and I don't think I'd be that person if it wasn't for those experiences. So I wouldn't want to say anything or do anything that would change those, because I wouldn't trust that I would be the man I am today.
Fair enough. You know, and I tend to agree. I mean, there really isn't a lot in my life that I would seriously consider wanting to change either. So yeah, that's definitely fair play there. Um, so you know, and this is just a question based on your perspective as a fan. Um, do you think it is more important that a wrestling talent be great in the ring or great on the mic?
Oh, um, you do a lot of your talking in the ring. You know, you want the crowd behind you. You want to show that you're, in essence, good at what you're there to do. But there's an element of that is mic work. You know, so while in the ring is vitally important, you've got to be good at that, because you're not likely to break somebody's neck on the mic. You've got to be, you know, almost flawless in the ring with what you do. We've seen over the years too many botches that have led to career-ending injuries, even fatalities.
Yeah.
That comes because of whatever. That's the risk you take. You need to be at the top of your game. And for me, that's where it's important. As a fan, I want to make sure that I'm watching people who are performing their hearts out, but are doing it safely, are, you know, in control. And regardless of what they say about all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, you're there to watch entertainment. You're there to watch 2, 3, 4 people beat the living hell out of each other in a controlled environment. But accidents happen, but they don't happen if you're on the mic.
Yep. Yep. It's very true. Very true. So, you know, we're getting toward the end of things now. So, how can people get their own copy of SlamStars? How is the game obtainable currently?
So currently, it's not obtainable. Sorry, I'm getting a bit fidgety and uncomfortable. So it's not currently obtainable because we are finalizing the layout of the rule book. We are looking at getting images for the cards, the attack cards, which I'm happy to show you. I've got a set up here in front of me.
Okay.
So there's still work to be done.
Gotcha.
The best thing to do if people are interested is most certainly give us a follow on TikTok. I know it's not everybody's favorite platform, but it's the one that seems to be working the best for us. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. So whichever, jump on there, give us a follow. We post things up fairly regularly. And then once it is ready, we will have it in the shop, in an online store, where it's going to be £25. So I think that works out at about $35. And you'll get an email with the link to, or the files to download, and then you print it off, and that's that. There are obviously options to take it to another level. So you can buy minis, you can buy card sleeves. We're in the process of resizing a printable ring. So if you've got a 3D printer, there'll be files that you can print the ring off.
Oh, very cool.
So, yeah, some minis as well. So again, it comes down to having it being affordable for people, rather than, you know, we could box it as a game, but we're looking at, with the minis, the ring, the cards, even just for a 4-player game, you're looking at £100, sort of $130 plus for a game. And I don't want people paying that. You know, I'm not in this for the money. It is a passion. It is a labor of love. And being able to give it away isn't viable. But
of course,
to make it as affordable as possible. But there's a lot of things that come with that are going to be free. So all these wrestlers that signed up and are on our roster, all their character sheets, their roster forms, are going to be free to download. All the promotions that we have on file as agencies, they'll all be free to download and print off, so that people can kind of go, well, actually, I want to play as Big Sam, the Beast of Bodmin. So I'm going to download his file, and I'm going to, you know, play him in the game. Or they can just use the character sheets and come up with their own SlamStars, you know. So there are options, and making it affordable, making it accessible is vital, really, to what it is that I want the game to be.
Gotcha. And I do have at least the huge majority of your social media running on the ticker on the bottom of the screen there. So, you know, everybody definitely give SlamStars a follow on their various social media, and, you know, let's definitely make this thing grow, because it's I mean, I love the idea of this. The concept is just very, very cool. So, kudos to you for actually putting this together. That is just very cool.
That means a lot. And say it's been 15 years in the process. So for anybody watching who thinks, that whatever you're working on is never going to be good enough, that absolute rubbish. It's sometimes a break is needed, sometimes a refresh, but just keep going at things, because there was a point where I'd given up on SlamStars because I'd rewritten the rules and I didn't like it. But now it's in a place where it's like, not only I like it, but the people who play it with me regularly love it, and they keep asking me, can we play it again? And it's like, guys, we have scheduled events. We had one yesterday, and the one lad is like, are we playing again next week? And it's like, no, we're scheduled every fortnight, because that's what I can commit to at the moment. And he was kind of like, oh, but I want to play next week. And I'm like,
you're onto something. You have struck a nerve with people, and that's great. That's great. So one thing I will ask, I know over in the UK, you guys are heavy consumers of tea. By any chance, do you drink much coffee?
So that's a very interesting question. So I used to drink a lot of coffee. I used to be drinking sort of 20, 22 cups of coffee a day.
Really?
And then, it's a lot. And I used to then start waking up and getting instant headaches. So literally, because I wasn't consuming coffee while I was sleeping, I was waking up with withdrawal headaches. So I stopped generally drinking coffee altogether. I'll have the occasional cup of tea, but I love coffee. It's been the hardest thing for me to give up.
Gotcha. Well, the reason I'm asking is the Throwdown has recently gotten into an affiliate partnership with a really cool coffee company. And I'm actually about to run a spot for them. And I just wanted to sort of find out if you're a coffee aficionado, and we are in an affiliate partnership with a company called Blackout Coffee. And I'm going to run a spot right now about them. And like I said, Throwdown Nation, I am excited to announce our partnership with Blackout Coffee. We had been looking for a while for a company to get into an affiliate partnership with, and it wasn't an easy process. We were looking for a company that makes a great product, but also a company that holds similar values to those that we hold dear. And here at the Throwdown, we also try to keep ourselves well caffeinated. So recently we ran across Blackout Coffee and found that they really checked all of the boxes. The coffee itself is produced in Florida and is typically roasted, packed, and shipped within 24 to 48 hours after an order is placed. So, freshness is a top priority. And here is the really cool part. If you like flavorful coffee from a top-notch company, along with the potential to help us here at the Throwdown to offset production costs, you can shop Blackout Coffee using the QR code on the screen, and we will get a small commission on anything that you happen to buy. And they have whole bean coffee, ground coffee, instant coffee, and K-Cups available, along with a complete line of apparel and other merch for all of your coffee needs. And you can even use the coupon code Throwdown20 to get 20% off of your first order. And as far as what we've got coming here on the Throwdown, tomorrow night, the 13th at 7 p.m. Eastern, I've got episode 162, and our guest is a Florida-based pro wrestler by the name of Big Boy Patty, and he actually trains and wrestles out of the House of Champions in Orlando, Florida, and they are another school that is producing some absolutely top-notch talent. They've got a great group of trainers down there, including Bobby Fish. And like I said, it's yet another amazing school that is just producing some top-notch talent. And then on Tuesday, the 14th, 7 p.m. Eastern, I've got episode 163, and my guest that night is pro wrestler Gigolo Josh Valen. So, I mean, those are the next two, but we are booked right now, actually through the middle of November. We've got 2 to 3 of these a week coming up, and we've actually got a few episodes coming up that I'm really excited about, and so definitely keep an eye on my socials, and some exciting things are coming. And, for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that will be seeing this on replays and such, thank you for that. If you like what we have going here, do the old like, comment, share, and subscribe. And before we wrap this up, you said you had a few things you would like to show.
Yeah, I've got a in front of me. So
okay.
me just.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, so this is our 3D printed ring. We're in the process of deciding whether or not this might actually be too big. And we got some minifigures as well, which we've been using. And we got 3 male, 2 female designs. And then here, I got one of the roster forms. So this is Big Sam, the Beast of Bodmin, his character sheet, and then the setup. So we got our stamina dice here, and when you perform actions, they move up into the used. When you take damage, they go up into the exhausted. And one of the mechanics is, say there's 6 or say 5 damage up in the exhausted, and a pin move is performed. You'd roll these, and if you get 3 or more over your defense value, you fail your pin, and your pins, you're out of the game. Same with submissions. And then deck of cards, and then crowd cards are here. So when you roll over a certain value, you trigger your showmanship, the crowd gets involved, and that can change the dynamic of the game. And then got momentum, which is another sort of currency that you can use to perform pins and submissions and finishes. And then the red dice represents sort of how bloody you become. So you can have matches that are sort of like the first blood matches, and KO only victories.
Very nice, very nice. Do you have plans for potentially different rule sets or modules to cover different kinds of matches, like for instance a death match or a Hell in the Cell type of are there going to be rule modules that'll take all of that sort of thing into account?
Not rule modules. What we are are doing is releasing not a build you a match setup, but having a large number of match types already in the rule book. So things like over the rope, top rope rules will be there, ladder match rules will be there, table match rules, having special referees, countouts, obviously pin submission and knockout rules are already in there. Casket matches, things that you, over the course of a year watching any kind of wrestling, you would see, and then the ability to use those rules to mix and match the rule types. So you could have a 6-man last man standing over the top rope, that, or a street fight tag team match using the combination of rules, and they will blend seamlessly.
Got you. Yeah, so it definitely sounds like it's a very adaptable, very scalable type of system, which is really what you need for this type of an endeavor, because professional wrestling, that there's really no limits as to the imagination that people can come up with for just some of the wild match types that you see out there. I don't know over in the UK. I mentioned death matches. I don't know how prevalent the death match society is over in the UK, but there's a fair amount of it here in the US, and those guys are a different breed. I mean,
yeah, the hardcore matches are just another level, and the game has a weapons which will expand. It currently has 9 different weapons. So it has your ladder, it has your table, your steel chair, a barbed wire baseball bat, kendo stick, ring bell, announcer's microphone that you can use. And they have a braking system, so they're not infinite. They could break on you. But that's just the start. And then when we will be releasing new moves, new weapon sets, new crowd cards and things like that down the line, which again there'll be a small cost to, but it will not cost the earth. It will expand what you can do. As part of the career mode, you've got elements of the match. So you'll have your entrance where you can play a card, so you can create your own entrance, and you can have your different music, your different pyrotechnics, different visuals, and they will have a knock-on effect then to how successful you are at pulling in new fans for your agency, and then that's how your agency grows. So the more fans you've got behind you, the more you can do, the more wrestlers you can pull roster and things like that. And then use your story cards, which we've got heel cards, face cards, and tag teams. So at the start of a match or at the end of the match, you can play a story card, and it might be the tag team. The one partner turns on the other, and so they're thrown into this storyline of they've got to face each other. Or you can claim for title matches. You can form a tag team, and it's all story driven within the career mode to make it more like you're watching a wrestling show over the course of a few months.
I like it. So almost a career mode type of thing.
Yeah. So any sort of electronic version of a wrestling game, has this story mode. It's very rigid. Right. Normally, a few options, but this gives you currently, a limited number of options. But what you can do with those options is almost infinite, and then we'll add to that as well. Very cool.
Very cool. It's funny. Just a suggestion, a bug I will put in your ear. You know, I've had a few deathmatch guys on the show, and interestingly enough, almost without fail, the object that they hate bumping on more than just about anything else, strangely enough, is Legos. They hate getting power bombed onto Legos. And just stepping on a Lego is bad enough. I couldn't imagine taking a bump onto Legos. That would just be horrendously awful. So
Yeah,
keep that. So that's something to keep in mind for a future weapons pack is Legos.
there is one thing I will say hurt more than stepping on Legos. And I
What's
don't know
that?
how familiar you are with the different dice you can have these days. But there's a D4, which is pretty much like a pyramid.
Oh, I can only imagine.
They hurt. And yeah.
Yeah. Yep. But anyway, Anthony, I want to. Whoops. Hang on. Looks like we lost him. I think we're going to get him back. Hello. Looks like we lost you for
I
a
lost you
second.
for a moment.
But anyway, Anthony, I want to thank you for your time. This has been an absolute pleasure, and I'm definitely excited to watch this venture grow for you, and I'm looking forward to, you know, being kept in the loop on all of this, and you know, I will do whatever I can to help promote what you've got going because this is special. So
Well, that's amazing. And this, you know, thank you. It's, you know, it means a lot to be able to do things like this and share the game, because it is difficult to get people to get on board. And all I ask, you know, is to anybody, just like and share. And in your position, you've got the opportunity to talk to wrestlers, and you know, I would highly appreciate just a word in their ear and go, this is something that's going on, check it out.
oh, for sure. Yeah, I will. I will definitely do everything I can to spread the word because this is cool. As a matter of fact, you know, I had mentioned I think before we went on the air that I've had this tag team from London on, and I think they would completely dig what you've got going here. So I'm gonna make a point of connecting you with those two guys because
That'd be amazing.
they're just top notch. So. But anyway, so until tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern with Big Boy Patty, it's been a pleasure. Be good to each